we embarked P&O Ventura in Southampton for a 4-night mini-cruise before she was scheduled to go into a dry dock for refurbishment. We paid just £340 per person, $410, each for a standard balcony cabin booked on a late saver rate. We knew that this was a really good price for a mini-cruise and thus adjusted all expectations before embarking, especially knowing that the ship was going in for scheduled maintenance straight after this cruise. In this video, we'll give you our thoughts on Ventura as a ship, P&O as a cruise line, and whether you should contemplate booking a cruise on a ship that has a dry dock or refurbishment on the horizon. Ventura is a ship which is around 14 years old, and her last refit was due in 2018, therefore you would expect some minor signs of wear and tear here and there. When it came to maintenance, this ship was as expected. Public areas such as bars, lounges and restaurants were adequately maintained. In fact, many of the seating, particularly in bars such as Havana, looked pretty new. It's clear that P&O are continuing investment into this ship and trying to address those wear and tear issues as they develop, something which felt distinctly lacking aboard P&O Arcadia. The signs of the ship's age were in the usual expected areas, including the outer decks, pool areas and corridors. We did hear a few grumbles on board about cabins having some issues, but our own experience with our cabin was okay. For a standard balcony cabin, it was pretty standard in terms of decor, practicality and comfort, and when you consider what we paid for this cruise, we were pretty satisfied. It is one of the smaller balcony cabins we've stayed in, measuring at just 165 square feet in surface area, which is around 15 square metres. This is most noticeable by the lack of sofa bed in this cabin, which many modern cruise ships feature. However, this cabin is still able to sleep up to 4 passengers thanks to the Pullman beds which come down from the deckhead. The balcony was a decent size at 45 square feet, 4 square metres, and was in surprisingly good condition. Most balcony cabins on board featured 2 reclining deck chairs and a small coffee table.
To our surprise, there was an interactive TV which did allow for passengers to watch movies on demand, but that was about it. It certainly fell short of the systems used on Iona and Arcadia, which additionally allows guests to check their cabin statement, browse restaurant menus and browse activities happening all around the ship. With it being quite a short dry dock, there's a good chance that these TVs are here to stay for a while to come. However, if you have sailed on this ship post dry dock, do let us know if Ventura has new TVs or not. Similarly, with the public areas being in a generally good condition and not seeming too dated, we would imagine that the dry dock is going to be more of a technical dry dock where they focus on those need to address issues, like the ones which we've shown you, rather than giving this ship a rebirth like some dry dock refits you hear about. With the amount of cost cutting that's going on at P&O Cruises, there's no way that they are going to pull up carpet and replace furniture when there is nothing wrong with them. In terms of practicalities of this cabin, it was more than adequate for 2 or even 3 passengers, but if there were 4 to this cabin, it would feel pretty cramped and inadequately practical in terms of storage and power outlets. There are plenty of drawers about this cabin, and the open walk-in style wardrobe area found on most Carnival ships is a layout we have long been a fan of, and it's a shame that they don't feature on the new Excellence class cruise ships like Iona and Arcadia. But nothing in life is free. Having a big wardrobe area like this comes at a cost, a small bathroom. Now this bathroom is about standard for a cruise ship, but Iona and Arcadia feature much larger bathrooms by comparison, which begs the question, what would you prefer? A larger bathroom and less storage, or more storage and a smaller bathroom? Let us know in the comments below.
Even though P&O are continuing to display difficulties operating in a post-2020 world, they weren't half as evident as some of our other P&O cruises in the last couple of years. Unlike our cruises on both Britannia and Arcadia, we were able to book specialty restaurants around 2 weeks before the cruise, and there was still availability at these venues up to the second night of our cruise once on board. Most seasoned cruisers know that booking these venues is one of the first jobs when you embark a ship, and if you have that sort of discipline, you wouldn't have an issue experiencing these extra charge venues aboard Ventura. Let's talk about food. Inclusive eateries aboard Ventura include the main dining rooms, Cinnamon, Saffron and the Bay Tree, the waterside buffet, poolside pizzeria and poolside grill. These are all covered as part of your cruise fare when you book, and you can easily make do with them if you don't want to spend too much money when on board. Variety at these venues was very lacking in our view, and will probably be quite obvious to a seasoned cruiser, particularly somebody that has recently been on a cruise with other cruise lines or has cruised with P&O for many years and seen how this variety has declined post-2020. Many cruise lines offer complimentary soft ice cream right by the pools, but you don't have that luxury on Ventura. The pizzeria did do pretty good pizza, it has to be said, and comes very close to the pizza on Princess ships. The poolside grill is included in your cruise fare and serves burgers, hot dogs, fish and chips and nachos for lunch and early dinner. The food was alright, it filled a hole, but we have certainly had a lot better on other cruise lines. And that was also the case in the waterside buffet and the main dining rooms too. with the quality of food seeming very average and not coming close to resemble the food shown on P&O's website and in TV adverts. The menus have been cut to the bone and now feature less premium food options.
The overall quality of inclusive food in these venues was okay. Nothing we ate was memorable or especially satisfying, and does fall behind a lot of the competition out there. But when you factor in the cost of the holiday and consider that P&O sit in the mainstream cruise category, it was acceptable and certainly surpasses the variety and food quality you get at an equivalent star-rated hotel on land. But if you've dipped your toe in the likes of Celebrity, Holland America and even Princess, you will likely be pretty disappointed with inclusive dining aboard Ventura. If you don't mind paying a premium for better quality cuisine, then definitely consider trying some of the extra charge restaurants on board. The first one we tried was Epicurean at the White Room. This costs £29 per person, which is around $35, and is a 2-hour dining experience which includes around 6 courses including palate cleansers. You can expect dishes such as the red pepper and goat cheese parfait to start, and the incredible Emmental soufflé for a main. When it comes to desserts, the crêpe Suzette would be our recommendation. However, it's disappointing that they no longer cook it at your table like they used to, which is another example of how P&O are cutting a cruiser's overall experience.
Cinder has been a favourite of ours aboard P&O ships, and while we did enjoy most of the food here, the experience has been cut, prices have increased, and the service is certainly inferior to what it once was. Cinder used to operate by means of a cover charge, which cost £18 per person for a 3-course meal, including sides, and used to get complimentary dishes from the chef and palate cleansers too. Now, it works by a la carte pricing, and they've done away with the complimentary dishes from the chef and palate cleansers, which has reduced the overall dining experience. This change of pricing has also increased the cost by around 11%, based on the bill for our 3-course meal being £40, which excluded drinks. Service at Cinder used to be very personable, friendly and efficient, whereas now, it isn't any better than the inclusive main dining on board. We had a long wait for all 3 courses, waiters seemed stressed, and at times came across as irritable if you asked for a drink. You had to ask. You certainly weren't offered one, not at this venue anyway. In the evening, the Glasshouse operates by means of booking, which can be done through the P&O My Holiday app. However, for lunch, many people including ourselves were able to rock up and walk straight in. You can expect a fine selection of the very best wines for around the world, all of which have been selected by the food hero Ollie Smith. The extra charge food menu is one you must try during your cruise, consisting of small tapas plates including polenta chips with red pepper tapenade and popcorn chicken with Korean barbecue sauce. They also serve larger plates including fish and chips and a spinach and ricotta pasta pinwheel, both of which were excellent and were certainly worth the small supplementary charge for each dish.
Of an evening, the beach house at the aft of the waterside buffet converts into a specialty restaurant, serving North American, South American and Caribbean inspired dishes. The beach house operates by means of a £7.50 per person cover charge, however some items will incur an additional charge. We have dined at the beach house on 4 different ships on many occasions, and we've always been pretty impressed, and come away feeling that the cover charge is fair. On Ventura, it was a pretty poor meal. The nachos were very average and weren't half as good as what you get at a UK cinema chain, and the halloumi sizzler plate was very poor. We have this exact dish each time we dine at the beach house with P&O, and it's usually sizzling in a tasty barbecue marinade, and it's a great dish. This time, it was exceedingly bland. The halloumi and vegetables were fried in oil alone. They give you one measly fajita wrap cut into 2. The Mexican rice wasn't as good as Uncle Ben's, and as for the chocolate cake, it's the worst piece of cake we've ever eaten. It is 100% shop bought, the chocolate cream icing had a synthetic aftertaste, and the sponge was as dry as Elton John's drink cabinet. When it comes to entertainment, it's all very average once again. There was a good atmosphere in the bars and lounges on board, but none of the entertainment we saw was particularly good or memorable. If you are new to cruising with P&O, you will most likely enjoy the West End style shows in the theatre and be blown away by Stephen Mulhern's Magic and Illusion show Astonishing. But if you've cruised with P&O many times before, you must be craving some new entertainment by now. It's the 5th time we've seen this show, the tricks and the order they do them in are identical, and we're no longer astonished, we're actually quite bored. P&O really need to think about revamping their shows and coming up with some new ideas. These shows have well and truly run their course, and that is a view we have heard many loyal P&O cruisers echo time and time again.
When it comes to things to do aboard P&O Ventura during the day, you'll encounter deck sports such as shuffleboard and deck quoits, bingo, quizzes, film showings in Tamarind or the Arena Theatre, port talks and live music and dancing around the ship. Ventura has 4 swimming pools, one of which features a retractable roof which can be opened in warmer weathers. so this is a ship which excels mostly when it's cruising to warmer climates. The endless pool at the forward end of the ship is adults only and conveniently sits next to the retreat. On sea days, passes were being sold for £20 per person during our cruise, which included use of the super comfortable loungers, wet flannels, towels and use of the thermal suite. Prices do vary massively by cruise, but on warmer cruises, expect these prices to be sold for a lot more money. Clearly on this cruise, there weren't any demand. The Oasis Bar is your answer to relaxation aboard Ventura. You can choose from a variety of beauty and pampering treatments which take place in one of the many treatment rooms in the Oasis Bar. You can also treat yourself to a 2-hour spa pass for around £20 per person, and this includes the use of the Swedish orthopedic beds, sensory rainfall showers, saunas and steam rooms, but doesn't feature a hydrotherapy pool unfortunately. The cost of the spa passes will vary by cruise. Full spa passes were available, however they are limited, so make sure you inquire about them as soon as you get on board.
With regards to service, it's a million times better than what we had aboard P&O Arcadia at the end of last year, but it still isn't to the standard it was before the pause in cruise operations. Drink service seemed to be at its best in Havana and the Tamarind Club, which had a lot of bar staff making their way round this venue to take drinks orders, but we didn't struggle too much to order a drink in any of the bars and lounges during the 4 nights we were on board, even if it didn't always come with a smile. Where service is still struggling is the dining venues, whether it be the main dining or specialty restaurants. Crew don't seem half as friendly as they were pre-2020, and while a lot of that can be attributed to a shortage of staff and cabin stewards helping out in struggling departments they aren't familiar with, it probably has a lot to do with the fact that P&O no longer charge passengers for gratuities. Whatever the reason, the service is just not up to the standard it once was, and when you compare to the likes of Marella and Royal Caribbean, which sit in the same mainstream cruise category, it does seem all the more noticeable. This view is based not just on our cruise aboard Ventura, but our post-2020 sailings aboard Iona, Britannia and Arcadia as well.
Drinks aboard P&O ships are consistently poor. Although drink prices are pretty fair compared to their competitors, their menus have been cut so drastically that they now look really quite pathetic. It also seems as though their bar staff aren't the best on P&O, particularly when it comes to cocktails. They can't make a porn-style martini for toffee. When it comes to the cost of drinks, expect to pay around £5 for a pint of beer, around £6.50 for a small glass of house wine, and around £5.50 for a single gin and tonic. Soft drinks range between £2.25 and £3.50 at the time of filming. If you live near London, you'll most likely feel that these sort of prices are fair, as that's around what you would pay at your local pub. Pay as you go when it comes to drinks would be our advice, but they do have some packages available, but we'll give you some warnings before you commit. One of the great things about taking out a drinks package is freedom. The idea of not having to flick through menus trying to work out what you can and can't afford, and what's included and what isn't included. The Ultimate Drinks package is the only package which includes alcohol, and this costs £39.95p per person per day, which adds on around £1,119 per couple for a 2-week cruise, as the T's and C's state that all passengers in the cabin must take out the same package. However, let me tell you a little secret. Did you know the Ultimate Drinks package only entitles you to around 59% of the alcoholic drinks on the bar menus? Here's why.
Exclusions include any drink over £6.95, doesn't include bottles of wine, large bottles of water, canned and bottled premium soft drinks, juices and smoothies, drinks from room service, minibar, self-service or vending machines, onboard events such as wine tasting, onboard specials such as pims and buckets of beer, large or double measures, and alcoholic beverages are capped at 15 per person per day. If you aren't somebody that's going to drink 7 glasses of wine a day or 8 pints of beer, we would recommend just paying for drinks as you go, especially as more than 41% of a bar menu isn't included anyway. Who thought a large bottle of water would be seen as a luxury or extravagant item? Nope, neither did we. P&O also offer a premium soft drinks package and a children's package, both of which have their own list of exclusions as you would expect, and are also only available on cruises of 5 nights or more. The children's package is the only one we would recommend. It is available to adults and you only need to drink around 3 Cokes a day to get your money's worth. The other 2 packages are very stingy in our view and we would never take one out, but do let us know your view of the P&O drinks packages by dropping us a comment below.
As we said at the start of this video, it was a cheap last-minute cruise. We weren't expecting things to be perfect, and to be honest, they weren't. But after our torrid experience aboard Arcadia at the end of last year, things were evidently better. This was the first cruise with P&O post-2020 where we didn't have an issue booking specialty restaurants before and in the first 2 days of boarding the cruise. There was no issue booking the spa if we wanted to do so, The ship was showing her age and nearly all of the pools on board, and cabins were a little dated but comfortable, practical, and we would happily stay in one again for the money we paid. Ventura surprised us at how well maintained she seemed inside. In fact, the carpet and much of the furnishings in the bars and lounges aboard Ventura were clearly new, which is reassuring to see that this is a ship that P&O are continuing to invest in. Because of how good the condition is inside, you can expect these to be unchanged post-dry dock. The maintenance issues round by the pools are the areas that would have hopefully been focused on during that short dry dock. P&O are cost-cutting more than any other cruise line we have sailed with. They aren't going to refurbish parts of the ship that don't need it. And when a cruise line keeps a dry dock on the down low with very few details released, it's usually because they have very little to shout about. The problems which do persist aboard Ventura and across the P&O fleet, it would seem, is the standard of service and dining. There also seems to be a bit of inconsistency between the perks you get and the ships you travel on. P&O no longer do cooked items when it comes to room service for breakfast, but offer a more limited continental menu. P&O's website says that this is included on all of their ships, but it certainly wasn't the case aboard Ventura, as a £2.50 mandatory charge was in place. We've also spoken to a few people who have been aboard Iona recently who told us that a £2.50 trade charge was also implemented, so we're not quite sure what is going on here. Afternoon tea in the main dining room is also supposed to be included on all ships excluding Iona and Arcadia, although we're not entirely sure why passengers on those ships don't get the benefits that passengers on the other ships in the fleet have. Having said that, afternoon tea wasn't available on Ventura or Arcadia at the end of last year, so it seems as though the teams on each ship pick and choose what's going to be laid on for passengers and what's not. Aboard Ventura, there was no nightly turn-down service, no complimentary breakfast in bed, and no afternoon tea in the main dining room. To us, Ventura is a very average cruise ship. If you've dipped your toes in plenty of other cruise lines, there's a good chance you'll feel that this ship is lacking in a few areas. But, considering what we've paid for this cruise, and seeing as Ventura offers some of the cheapest cruises out of the UK, it's worth reflecting on value for money, and on this cruise, I think we got it. But if you are cruising with P&O for the first time since the pause in cruise operations, you may be surprised at just how different it feels once you're on board.